So I've done a handful of videos on flannel shirts, the best selling overall, the most valuable, and the best ones that you commonly find in thrift stores. But what I haven't done is ranked the big, well-known flannel shirt brands that everybody sees out there in the thrifts, and you're passing over a lot of these. Some of them you're picking up where you shouldn't be. So this is all about the 10 big name flannel shirt outdoors brands ranked from worst to best, scored on 3 categories: rarity, average sold price, and sell-through rate. So rarity is basically the total market size on eBay. So it's the active and solds added together. I take that number, and the higher that number, the better it is for this list, because it's the more likely you will find it. So the one with the most items on eBay got a score of 10. The one with the least items on eBay got a score of 1. So that's how it was scored in that category. Next we have average sold price. Higher is best, lower is worst. The highest average sold price got a score of 10. The lowest got a score of 1. So next we have sell-through rate. The higher the sell-through rate, the faster it sells, the better for you, the better for me. The best sell-through rate got a score of 10. The least worst got a score of 1. That's how it was scored. And there's 10 of these brands, and they've got to be big, well-known brands that everybody knows about. There's a couple that are sort of outliers that maybe shouldn't be here, but I find them all the time, even though the market size doesn't say that they're super common. I included them just because it made sense to me. So here we go. We're going to start with number 10 and work our way up to number 1. Number 1 is the best. Number 1 will be the big outdoors brand that everybody sees that you should be taking a second look at every time. And number 10 is going to be, you should probably pass this by, unless there's a special circumstance. So here we go. The worst of the worst, Columbia. Sell-through rate 28%. Average sale price $16. Total market size 2,577 items. This makes me sad because 5 to 6 years ago, maybe even longer, Columbia was pretty good. And the thrift stores, for some reason, still mark this shit up, and no one cares about it. But it's still marked up. Like, when I go out shopping, I'll see a Columbia, just a regular button-up shirt for like $12, and I have to shake my head because you know where that's going to end up. But there are, of course, examples where Columbia has sold well or sold for a lot, but they're few and far between, and honestly, I'm not going to waste my time looking for them. I'm going to say when it comes to flannel shirts with Columbia with a 28% sell-through and an average sold price of $16, unless you find it new or it's in perfect shape and a crazy pattern that's just amazing, I would say pass it up, unless you get it for 50 cents. So Columbia, don't even worry about it unless there's something super special going on. Number 9, Eddie Bauer. The once big king of outdoors in the 90s is now something you're probably better off just passing up. So let's go through the numbers. $14 average sold price, which is the second worst in the whole list. It's also got the worst sell-through rate and the worst average sale price, and the second best probability. Meaning it's the second most common in the whole list to find. So this stuff is everywhere is what I'm saying. And it's not worth much. And it's got the worst sell-through rate of all 10 of these big brands. And the sell-through rate is 20%. Just awful. Just completely awful. So Eddie Bauer, if you find vintage Eddie Bauer and it's in great shape and it's really interesting, or it's wool or something special about it, maybe look at it if you're getting it cheap. But if you're finding just modern Eddie Bauer flannel shirts out there, just save your money for something better, because you'll be holding on to it for a while unless you try to sell it for $8. So Eddie Bauer, forget about it. Unless it's super special. Number 8. I can't believe I'm saying this, but keep in mind we're talking about flannel shirts specifically. The pants for Prana are good. Some of the other stuff is good. Flannel shirts, however, for Prana, nope. Not very good. Sell-through rate is 37%, which is okay. It's not awful, but it's not very good. Sold price $19, which is pretty good. The total market size is just over 1,000 items. But when you add up all the different data, the reason it's so low in the list is because it's not common. The total market size is only 1,000. So that's not very common when you compare it to 2,500 Columbia, 9,000 Eddie Bauer, or 16,000 of the number 1 brand. But Prana, I won't say pass on it for the shirts, but I will say take a good look at it, make sure it's in good condition. You'll get good money for it. It won't sell super quick, but based on my criteria, you can see some of the stuff here. I'm doing a bad job of showing some of the items. But, you know, if we're talking about flannel shirts, you know what they look like. So Prana, I'd say it's decent. Keep an eye out for it. If you find it cheap, pick it up and sell the shirts. If you find the pants, they're pretty good. So Prana, yeah, the sell-through rate isn't that great. The size of the market is very small, so these are kind of rare. That's why it's so low on the list. REI, number 7. This one barely made it on the list because it is not very common, which really surprised me because this is a brand that I find constantly. I find this every time I go out. The flannel shirts are not as common. So this is all about the flannel shirts only. Keep that in mind. Sell-through rate on these, 53%, so not terrible. The average sold price $16.67. The total market size 248. So it's low on the list because it's pretty rare. But if you find it, it's still worth looking at. I'd probably pick it up if it's in good shape and you're getting it cheap. The average one sells for $16. I wouldn't pay more than $5 on a good day if it's in really good shape. But keep your eye out for REI flannel shirts. They're okay. But they're not very common out there. I've only found 1 or 2. But I find everything else constantly. I find the nylon shirts every time I thrift. Number 6 of the big brand outdoors brands. Oh, here's the other REI tag. I forgot to show this. This is REI Co-op. It's a sub-line of REI. It tends to go for a little more money, a little more modern. Their stuff's a little bit better, but it's still the same stats pretty much as REI. So, 6 is Mountain Hardwear. This one was another outlier. It's not nearly as big as the other brands as far as number of units out there on eBay, but it's very popular. People talk about it, and I do find it a lot. So I feel like the market size isn't representative of what's in the thrift stores, if that makes sense. But anyways, the sell-through rate is good. It's 86%. It is the winner on this whole list of the highest sell-through rate. So Mountain Hardwear will sell fast, but because this video's aim is to show you commonly found, and it's ranked in that way, this one's only number 6 because it's not commonly found. The flannel shirts are not commonly found. $20 average sold price, whole market size, 190 shirts. Not very common out there, but if you find Mountain Hardwear flannel shirts, pick it up. You will get average of $20 and it will sell fairly fast with an 86% sell-through rate. Now, halfway through the list, we got Marmot at 5. This is not quite an outlier, but not as big as many of the other ones. Marmot is an interesting brand. It's kind of a middle-of-the-road outdoors brand that sells for more than you think it's going to. That's what kind of it is for me when I find it. The flannel shirts have a sell-through rate of 41%, which is lower than I thought it would be. Average sold price is $20.05 if you want to get crazy. Total market size, 896 items. Marmot sells pretty decent if you find the right thing. The brighter, the colors, This one will probably sell pretty quick because it's yellow. This gray one, I don't know. But the more flashy it is when it comes to a middle-of-the-road brand like this, the better it's going to do. At number 4, we have Orvis. Orvis was primarily a fishing brand back in the day. Vintage Orvis can go for quite a bit more than this stuff, so it's kind of an exception to the rule. But Orvis, the reason it got to number 4 is because it scored pretty well on the average sold price at 19 bucks. And the market size is pretty big at 4,100 items out there. So the sell-through rate's 41%, so it's not great, but it's not the worst. It's not terrible. Orvis has a pretty good, healthy market. You're not going to get a ton of money for them. They're not going to sell immediately. But this is one of the brands, the flannels, I would pick up if it's in good shape and it's in a great pattern like a black watch or one of these striped ones that look kind of eye-catching. Definitely if you find black watch, pick it up. And I'm going to do a whole video on flannel patterns and which ones sell for the most money and the fastest, because believe it or not, there are different patterns that people are looking for that sell faster, regardless of the brand. Orvis, they have a certain shirt, I forget what it's called, but I've sold it tens of times, where it's really thick and it has pockets. I think this is one of them. I'm not sure, but it's a thick, it has the 2 chest pockets and it has side pockets. It's an overshirt. I've sold several of those for just about 20 bucks. So Orvis, it's number 4. We're getting up there. Its total score was 18. So number 3, the top 3. 3 is North Face. This is a brand that was once the king of outdoors. Several years ago, North Face would sell almost no matter what. Now it's become kind of an okay brand if you find something in great shape. The flannel shirts, the sell-through rate is 39%, so there's a lot of them out there that aren't selling quickly. Average sold price is pretty good with 22 bucks. Total market's pretty good with 1,342 units. It's dwarfed by Orvis. Orvis is more than twice that much. But it's pretty good. North Face, the flannels can go for some good money. It's the number 3 best of the big, well-known outdoors brands. So I'd say if you find a North Face flannel for a good price, pick it up. Because even if you have to hold it for a little while, flannels will sell even when fall and winter are over. They'll still sell for another few months pretty well. They won't sell very well in the summer, but any other season they will. North Face, pretty good stuff. Pick it up if you get it cheap. Number 2, I can't believe because I always thought this brand was just straight up trash. In fact, I've been passing on Woolrich for probably 5 years. But when I started doing some research for this video, I was pretty surprised. Now, the sell-through rate isn't great. It's 32%. But it's the winner of the average sold price. Of all these brands, Woolrich has the highest average sold price, which blew my mind, and it's 25 bucks. That's the average. Here's the thing though. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm getting these average sold prices from eBay's Terapeak tool, and you can choose used only, but I think somehow some of the new ones still sneak in there. That being said, it's going to be corrupted on all the brands, not just Woolrich. So the average sold price may be $25 with my data. In reality, it may only be 21 or 22, but it is going to be higher than the rest of them because it's all going to be relative with the same glitch in the data set. That was a lot of words for nothing. But Woolrich is good because it will get you more money than the other big brands. And it'll take a while to sell if you get the wrong piece. But take a look. Let's actually look at Woolrich since we're in the top 2. Let's take a look at some of these and figure out why they're selling. I would probably buy this one. I like a good solid plaid with the thick front pockets. And so do a lot of other people. But let's find out what's selling for good money. What Woolriches are tainting these results to be so high? Let's see if we can... The highest price of Woolriches. Okay, well, it's a collab. And other stuff. This is a whole set. This is a Woolrich shirt. Really old. That's the other thing, is this brand's been around for... since my grandpa was a child. And some of these old Woolriches sell for pretty good money. So these are the actives. Let's look at the solds before we get excited. Because you know how eBay works. You can ask $10 million for a Disney DVD. But what will you really get? Sorry for the scrolling. eBay doesn't make it easy. Okay, so here's what actually sold. Someone actually got 300. Oh, that's a Moncler. I don't know why that's on the Woolrich search. eBay can be pretty weird with what they show you. Like, this is an LL Bean. Why is it on a Woolrich search? So that's how the data gets corrupted, because eBay's special in its own special way. 134 bucks. This I understand. I can understand something like this. If you see something like this with this Aztec pattern and it's vintage, pick that thing up fast, because it's the exception to the rule. Vintage old Woolriches are why some of them sell for good money. The common cotton ones that are modern, if it has a good print, it's worth checking into. If it's a good flannel. But you want to find the old wool ones. So I think that's about enough of that. Now we're to the very top one. The best of the large, well-known flannel shirt outdoorsy brands. And if you've been paying attention, I'm sure it's in the back of your mind and you already know what it is. Because you've probably been thinking the whole video, where is this one? Well, I'm going to make the suspense a little bit worse and see if I can make some cringe-worthy content here. So what's it going to be? Cringe. Number 1, LL Bean. That's correct. LL Bean flannel shirts is the best of the best well-known, big, main, outdoorsy brands that have been around for a while that you can find to resell. Okay, why is it? The sell-through rate is 50%, 0.9, so almost 51%. Total market size is it just dwarfs anything else. It's twice that of Woolrich. 16,600 items bought and sold on eBay. Flannel shirts specifically. Average sold price $21, which is not accurate because I can tell just from my experience that's going to be mostly the vintage stuff. But still, you're going to want to look just like Woolrich. You're going to want to find the vintage stuff that's going to sell for more. But even modern LL Bean, if you find a good size, like, or even like this black watch here, this should have no trouble selling for $20. Look at that pattern. And the slightly fitted, I can tell you, just as my own experience, will sell fast. The slightly fitted LL Beans sell really well. So if you find an LL Bean, especially in a black watch pattern, which is the blue and the green, I'll get into that in another video. But some of the other, just the bright tartans with the yellows or the reds or the Scotch plaids, anything that's a classic plaid pattern that you've seen is going to be a good bet that it's going to sell well. A few years ago, the buffalo checks were selling really good because of the whole grunge thing. Got pretty popular for a while. But now it's these kind of plaids that are selling a little bit better. So just be aware that the more classic the plaid, the better it's going to sell. Now, why LL Bean is the best one? Let's talk about it. It scored an 8 in sell-through rate. That means it was the second best sell-through rate in the whole list. It scored an 8 with the average sale price, so it was the second best average sale price in the whole list. And it's by far the most common. So that's why it got the 10 points. So its total points was 26. And you want the, like I said, let's recap why LL Bean is the best. Of the big outdoors brands, we're not talking about the best of all flannel shirts, not even by a long shot. I did a video on the most valuable flannel shirts, and one on the most value or the best to pick up common shirts, and one on the shirts with the best sell-through rates. Hopefully there's links to all those videos somewhere in this video if I can figure out how YouTube works. Total score 26, and 16,000 items out there being bought and sold. People are buying this stuff and selling this stuff. So LL Bean is good. Vintage is the best. And the vintage stuff will say Freeport, Maine on the tag. This looks like one. Nope, it doesn't. But this is the vintage tag you want. In fact, let me just make that a little bigger. So look for this tag. LL Bean, made in USA. And if you can find a 2XL, all the better. I should have mentioned that at the beginning of the video, but XL up to 3XL, I'd say, is the sweet spot for these. Larges sell pretty good too. Smalls and mediums, not so much. The best is LL Bean, followed by Woolrich. Next we have the North Face. Next we have Orvis. Marmot with number 5. Mountain Hardwear has the best sell-through rate at number 6. REI Co-op and REI Normal, number 7. Number 8, Prana. The reason it's lower on the list is because it's more rare. But if you find a Prana flannel, don't pass it up just because it's number 8 on the list. Pick it up, check it out. It's probably a good chance you'll be purchasing it if it's the right price. Eddie Bauer, number 9. I hate to say it, but unless it's special or vintage or wool, it's probably going to be a hard pass because this stuff is just not doing much. Columbia, the last and the worst. At this point, I hesitate to call it a trash brand, but it's there. It's teetering on the tightrope of garbagedom. Sorry, Columbia, but it is what it is. Bye.